Distinguished guests, SE and B is one of the important missions by UNESCO, bringing education to everyone, opening opportunities for everyone, especially those with special needs, wishing to attend to pursue higher level educations and facing that challenge, and also celebrating 50 years of diplomatic relations between UK and Vietnam. The event, the conference, is organized by the British Embassy to Vietnam in cooperation with Nisai Group and MOET. Will be a great chance for us to discuss with continuing education centers and also specialized and extensive institutions for educations of Vietnam, and fulfilling the missions by UNESCO, opening up new opportunities for disadvantaged groups, and also coming up with solutions on special and educations for Vietnamese students. The conference aims to figure out solutions to support teachers and students with special needs and their families, and also school to understand the needs of students with disabilities and improve, enhance awareness of people, enhancing the support for students with special needs, and also communicating, exchanging, discussing the education methods and measures of UK to Vietnam on students with special needs, so everyone can access higher quality educations. And the conference is organized between MOET and British Embassy to Vietnam and the Department of Continuing Educations and Department of Educations of provinces. This is a chance for us to disseminate information on how to better improve the education for students with special needs. And coming to our special event today, I'd like to introduce the guests as follows. From MOET, please welcome Dr. Nguyễn Hữu Độ, Deputy Minister of MOET. From British Embassy to Vietnam, please welcome Mr. Ian Free, British Ambassador to Vietnam. And from the Department of Continuing Education, please welcome Dr. Vũ Thị Tú Anh, Deputy Director of Department. From the Department of Education of Minorities, please welcome Madam Vũ Thị Ánh, Deputy Director. From departments and agencies of MOET, please welcome the Department of Kindergarten Education, Primary Education, and Department of International Cooperations. Please, from DOET of Hanoi, please welcome Mr. Nguyễn Quốc Dũng, Deputy Head of the department under MOET, under DOET. From Hà Tĩnh, DOET, please welcome Mr. Nguyễn Hồng Cương, Deputy Director. Madam Trần Thị Thủy Nga, Head of DOET of the city. From the Vietnam Institutions of Science for Education, please welcome Dr. Mai Văn Trinh, Deputy Head of the institution. Please, from the National College for Education, please welcome Dr. Lê Thị Thúy Hằng, Head of the Center for Integrative Education. From the Nisai Group of UK, please welcome Mr. Dhruv Patel, CEO of Nisai Group. And in addition, coming to our event today, we have 150 representatives and delegates from continuing educations and directors of kindergartens, primary schools, secondary school, and high schools, and also centers for specialized and exclusive educations. And also, please welcome delegates and representatives from training, educational institution of Vietnam and from other countries joining us online. One more time, would like to warmly welcome all the delegates and distinguished guests to our event today. Ladies and gentlemen, our conference consists of 5 parts. First of all, the opening, second, discussions and recommendations and solutions, and then we'll continue the discussions and Q&A, and we'll come to a close. And now I'd like to invite to the stage Dr. Nguyễn Hữu Độ, Deputy Minister of MOAT, to deliver the opening remarks. Please welcome.
Mr. Ian Phu, Ambassador of UK to Vietnam, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, representative from the Ambassador of UK, all of the teachers and people towards the anniversary, the 50th diplomatic relation between UK and Vietnam, and enhancing the effective cooperation in education cooperation between the two countries. It is my great pleasure to participate and deliver the opening remark to the conference on promoting effective special education needs provision between UK and Vietnam. So on behalf of MOET, I would like to extend the warmest welcome and the best wishes to the Ambassador Ian Phu and all of the delegates from the Embassy of UK to Vietnam. The best wishes, good health, and the beautiful cooperation partnership between Vietnam and UK. Well, ladies and gentlemen, all the teachers and pupils and students at the moment, we had a lot of the attention dedicated to the special education needs and ensuring education for all. So especially the vulnerable individual in the society, it is considered a very important measure for Vietnam, China, Japan, Korea, and the other countries in the Asia. Among the United Nations Development Goals, ensuring access to education to all is a very important goal. To achieve this goal, in the recent years, Vietnam has been dedicating attention and working together with the other countries in the region in order to promote the support to the special education needs, including the focus on the support and promotion of the education for special needs for the people in the centers of the special education in Vietnam. And continuing education facilities in Vietnam, and Vietnam participated inside the conventions on the rights for the disabled, and Vietnam's government approved and then ratified by the National Assembly, and we have the law on the rights of the children. So on the basis of the international conventions and the law on education since 2020, acknowledging the right to education among the very important rights. The right to social harmonization acknowledged by the government of Vietnam. With that, very specific directions, and the government has specific regulations on the education and social harmonizations, educations, and law on and law number 51 has been put in place, and the other regulation regarding the harmonizations towards the disabled and demonstrating the very high level of commitment of Vietnam in providing the education for special needs for the disabled children, showing the access to education and equal education and just education to all, and especially the need for the harmonizations for all. Well, ladies and gentlemen, Vietnam is now expanding and diversifying the facilities for special education. For example, the distance from the home to school, training to teachers of the special education and providing the special training on special education and education provided to all level from the kindergarten to the primary, secondary, and tertiary school, and especially the disabled and the continuing education facilities, centers, and the other specialized education facilities in Vietnam, and the workshop on promoting effective special education needs provision between the UK and Vietnam. So organized today is one of the very important activity to promote the cooperation and coordination exchange between the Vietnam's and UK peoples and students. We will create and provide the opportunities for all relevant stakeholders in the regard of the modern methodology for special education needs in UK, and also to be the chance for the continuing education centers in Vietnam to have a chance for cooperations and exchange of the expertise and experience. So bringing high quality education to all and opening up the opportunities of access to education to the group of the vulnerable children. And from then on, to come up with the proper solutions for children and students in Vietnam. So on the eve of the anniversary of 50th diplomatic relation between Vietnam and UK, I would like to extend the best wishes to the ambassador of UK in Vietnam, all of the members of the staff of the UK embassy, and we're looking forward to the fruitful cooperations, development of the partnership between the UK and Vietnam. And I would like to extend the best wishes to all stakeholders, especially the teacher, lecturers, students, and pupils who come to the workshop today to make your contributions. Last but not least, I would like to wish you all the best wishes, good health, and success. Thank you.
I'm delighted to be here to open this conference today together with Vice Minister Nguyen Hữu Độ, and later to witness the moment when we will launch the pilot project between Hai Tinh Province and Nisai Group, representatives of the UK business community. As we look to commemorate this year, the 50th year of diplomatic ties between the UK and Vietnam, education partnership has always been a key theme and will rightly continue to be so in our relationship. The UK is committed to deepening our education partnership with Vietnam and supporting Vietnam's development ambitions for a more effective and inclusive education system. And an important part of this is to enhance cooperation and promote awareness in the development of special educational needs, SEN. fulfilling the mission of the SDG 2030 Sustainable Development Goals, and contributing to equal opportunities for people with disabilities to access a higher quality of education. In the UK, our government has set out plans to invest over £14 billion in primary and secondary education, which includes spending an extra £700 million for children with SEN in 2020-21. And from our experience in the UK, we want every school to have a special educational needs coordinator who is responsible for overseeing the support and needs of pupils with special educational needs. A child with SEN may be eligible for support given in school, like speech therapy, an education, health and care plan, or a plan of care for children and young people aged up to 25 who have more complex needs. After today's conference, I hope that there will be increased understanding and awareness of the status of SEN in Vietnam, and suggestions on the resources needed to support improving the quality of teaching and learning, and how to target that support effectively to children. And this is where our delivery partner today, Nisai Group UK, and the comprehensive offer from other UK stakeholders can support in sharing expertise and best practice, which will, I hope, contribute a part to Vietnam's ambition towards higher quality education delivery. And on a human scale, I hope that this will be useful to help and support each family and each teacher who is maybe struggling to work out how to provide appropriate support for their children and pupils with SEN, and how to cater to them in the best possible way with improved skills and knowledge. I'm sure that this conference today will open up more opportunities to discuss SEN needs, identify areas for collaboration, and highlight the importance of quality assured education and inclusivity in education, particularly for SEN students. And today for us is just a first step, and I look forward to supporting future collaborations and activities between the UK and Vietnam. Finally, I would like to thank the Ministry of Education and Training, and especially the Department for Continuing Education, for their support and partnership in co-organising this event. And thanks also to Nisai Group UK as our delivery partner. I'm also grateful to all of the speakers and all of the participants joining in person today and online. I hope you have a positive, productive time and wish this event every success. Xin cảm ơn và chúc quý vị và các bạn một hội thảo tuyệt vời và thành công. Xin cảm ơn.
Distinguished guests, we're coming to the second part of the conference on issues, proposal, recommendations, and solutions. We have received valuable presentations by speakers. So each presentation shall be presented in 15 minutes. Now we would like to invite Dr. Lê Thị Thùy Hằng, Director of Support Center Education Development, National College of Education, to present a topic, meeting the special education needs of people with disabilities at higher education levels. Distinguished guests, the Ambassador, Mr. Ian Free, and Deputy Minister, ladies and gentlemen, due to constraint of time, I would like to present my report shortly, briefly. There's a lot to be shared and discussed, but I just go through it very quickly. And the main message I would like to convey to the representatives here on the demands of higher education of people with disabilities. And I will also introduce a model being applied by our college, by our center. So The contents includes three parts. First of all, the demands of higher educations of people with disabilities. The second part is the model being applied by center, and I will close with some recommendations. First of all, concerning the demands of higher educations of people with disabilities, as you all know, there are now 23 millions of children aged under 18, at about 5 to 7% of people, of students with disabilities wishing to pursue higher educations. And talking about the resources, the human resources for teaching SEND students. At the moment, 33 provinces in Vietnam don't have a center for exclusive educations. They are located in all regions of Vietnam. Talking about the training for former teachers of exclusive educations, since 2020, since 2016 to 2020, according to statistic of college and university for education in Vietnam, there are about 1,800 teachers having been trained. And you can see on the chart that the rate, the proportions of teachers working at centers for exclusive educations or being trained in terms of exclusive educations accounts for a very proportion, and the rest of them are teachers without the formal training on special educations and exclusive educations. So it can be seen that in Vietnam at the moment, lots of localities don't have a center or institutions for students with special needs and disabilities. And also, there are not enough teachers being trained on teaching students with SEND. The third point is that the capacity in interventions and supporting children mainly focus on supporting students at an early stage, and we are the demands being met are children at kindergartens and primary schools. And not many institutions and centers can satisfy the demands of those wishing to pursue higher education. So it can be observed that those are the challenges and difficulties that require resolutions to ensure the quality of children in Vietnam. So would like to introduce the model being applied at our center. So our college is under the MOET, and we are implementing a program, a pilot program. And you can see on the screen the images of our students and teachers at the center. And at the moment, we are having teachers who can first of all directly teach students with development disorders and deafness from primary school level to the high school level. And also, we have teachers that can teach graphic designs. So it can be observed that these teachers are supporting education, providing education for students to the college level. And we are also very proud that our college is one of the institutions that can deliver exclusive educations for students with special needs. We have taught more than 1,000 students, and those are students who have been participating in educations in our institutions. In terms of teaching students, we are one of the institutions that can teach students with deafness. They are using sign language, and they can achieve certificates nevertheless. And we're supporting education for those with hearing impairments, like in centers. And at the moment, there are two courses available. First of all, the course for students on graphic design, and the others, as I just mentioned earlier. And in terms of the formal educations, we have a lot of teachers who can provide education to students at primary school and high school as well. And we are also assisting students with special needs at integrative education institutions, and every year we provide support for more than 300 students like those. You can see on the screen the images, the photos of students who have been provided with education at our centers. And recently, they designed very interesting experiments. And these are some of the activities where interventions have been made for children with disabilities. You can see here the experts and the volunteers from even Europe can come to the center and provide their support. And we are very proud that we have resources of high quality teachers. They have joined international conferences and drafted, compiled important materials, and also provided tools for teaching and education. And some activities can be seen on images. So those are some achievements that we have gained over the last 20 years. And we have a great team of teachers with capacity in making interventions and using sign languages at every level, from primary to college level. And they have also joined a lot of programs by MOET to enhance their capacity. And for extensive educations and interventions for students with developmental disorders, we have a model to assess and also to review the outcomes to ensure the best quality. Now, in terms of capacity training for students with hearing loss, and we have provided support for lots of students in many localities in Vietnam, and they had the chance to study and to pursue the study until college, and this is a chance for them to acquire just education. We are also a unit where sign language is provided. And this is also an aspect of great need within the ministry. And regarding for parents of those students, we can see that they feel really happy about the achievements and what have been done. And last but not least, I'd like to present some recommendations to MOET and also training institution and localities. Well, first of all, we believe that we don't have a national program for comprehensive development of quality education for people with disabilities, especially at secondary to higher level of education. So at the moment, we all know that everyone needs to be given just education, given the same opportunity to pursue their study. So we should pay special attention to those with hearing loss and other kinds of disabilities. The second thing, we think that the Centers for Integrative Education can provide support and also at the same time implement the program for skills for building skills for students. These are also the places for us to enhance the resources to teach the student, and at the same time we should choose and also we should assign the levels to each kinds of center to ensure that different levels of education is provided, and also solve the challenges of MOET in terms of providing higher educations to SEND students. So those kind of exemplary centers will be the pioneers in providing such kind of education for SEND students. So we ourselves, we think that we implement the educations and research and application at the same time. We have conducted the pilot programs of MOET for many years, and the quality of education has been proved in practice, in reality. So we hope that the international organizations can and other institutions can bring into full play the available resources. Regarding recommendations to schools, we at the moment MOET has given permissions to the institutions to implement to train teachers of SEND students. However, there needs to be more flexibility in terms of teaching students at different levels, because now we are just focusing on the early stages. So this is the time for us to review and to make adjustments and train students, upskill teachers so they can provide support for SEND students at higher level. Localities with centers and institutions for SEND students, I believe that we need to build models or ensure the standards. As at the moment, we can see the number. There is a great number of centers, but not many can satisfy the standards of special education, extensive educations. So standard here is the key. Yeah. So for localities without centers for STEM students. They can learn from others with a great experience in their regions, and at the same time conduct more research for a proper model of development and bring into full play their resources. And for NC in particular, we are very willing to share our knowledge and discuss with other units and other institutions and other centers with lots of experience on developmental disorders and educations for SEND students. We're very willing to participate in the process. So these are the contents of our reports that I just presented briefly. So I hope that if you have any further questions, we can address later on. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Lê Thị Thúy Hằng, for your presentations. Now, would like to invite the Director of Center for Career and Continuing Educations of Thanh Xuân District of Hanoi, Ms. Tô Thị Trà Ly, to present the current situations and solutions for SEND and special students in Center for Continuing Education and Center of Special Education in Vietnam. Deputy Minister Nguyễn Hữu Độ, Mr. Ian Frew, British Ambassador to Vietnam, distinguished guests, I'd like to present the actual situations and solutions on special education support for students at vocational education and continuing education centers. First of all, about the actual situations. We have a network of educational institutions to support children with disabilities. We have special schools at preschool, primary school, middle school, and high school, vocational education, and continuing education center, inclusive learning for students. In Hanoi, in particular, we have we have schools with extensive educations under MOET and other schools under the People's Committee. We also have some public and private institutions and community centers that can provide assistance. And talking about the actual situations at schools with exclusive educations, we at the moment there are only 3 public schools under the management of MOET. The demands are increasing, but haven't been met. And there are a lot of students in a class. However, the resources of teachers remain limited, and it is also very challenging to recruit teachers to provide education to SEND students. At high schools and continuing education centers, every year we receive students with lots of challenges being faced. First of all, we don't have students being trained exclusively for special educations. So when we receive students, the teachers face a lot of difficulties in providing support because they haven't been trained properly. So for that reason, the human resources is a great issue for us. The second thing, according to regulations, we have some programs to provide personal assistance to students, but due to the limited resources, we cannot address all demands. And these sent students receive little support, little personal support, and they lack the teachers lack the knowledge and the skills to provide support effectively, and there needs to be more assessment to be conducted to and targeted at these students. And we at the moment we have about 15 students with severe intellectual disabilities. That means 2 or 3 students in each class. Uh, and the special class with severe students with severe disabilities is located at Kim Giang, and we are trying making great efforts to provide the skills to students in terms of reading and making and doing mathematics. And from 2020, we have supported students with disabilities who are studying at school in other districts as well. Moving on to the second part, I would like to present the model for supporting sent students at Thanh districts. I will say that the number of students with SEND are increasing at the moment, and teachers are facing a lot of challenges. So since and for a few years, the People's Committee of District has issued a document on instructing and guiding, providing support for SEND students, and we are assigned as a public center in the district, and other favorable conditions have also been created to support students, to support SEND students at school. And in each school, we have a room to support students, and every year we there will be specialist teachers that can assist students, and we also work with the experts and provide funding for these teachers and provide other assistance to these students. And every week each student will be given 3 to 6 hours of training in terms of thinking and language, arts, and other social skills. And these are some pictures that are some images that we took of the activities that we conducted with students. And this is an image at Nguyễn Trãi Primary School. So the teachers here provided support for students with SEND. In this picture, they are learning self-care skills. So you can see here that lots of activities have been conducted, and we have received good feedbacks from students and their parents as well. Coming to the third part, I would like to present some solutions and proposals. First of all, we believe that in these current conditions, the schools need to fulfill their missions on supporting SEND students as specified by documents issued by the government. There are a lot of materials and guidance available, so schools should do a better job in following such kind of guidance. And also for the teachers, we think that capacity training is essential. And also I'd like to propose that the local government, the local authorities can come up with some special measures to support students, there's a real need for teachers that can provide specialized support to SEND students. And it is estimated that each school will need 1 to 2 teachers on special educations, and there should be a public inclusive education support center in the district. And these centers will provide support for students at primary and secondary school, as the same model being applied by our center. And we also recommend that there should be more schools that can provide exclusive educations in other localities, so we can better serve the demands. And also there should be some special model on this kind of specializations. And it is also very essential that students of higher at a higher age can access education, high quality educations, and we hope that favorable conditions can be created so students, so teachers can be upskilled in terms of special educations and also learn from the international expert. And we hope that we can further improve the legal framework. For example, regulations on the establishments of continuing the public institutions for SEND students, and also in the long run, we hope that there will be a law on education for people with disabilities. So this will serve as the legal basis for the localities to implement. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Madam Oti Charlie, for your presentations. And now comes the presentations from Madam Emma Longley from University of Greenwich on the special education needs in the UK, how heads of schools in the UK are trained and practiced in an academic environment, and the positive changes to school and regulatory framework in the UK after implementing the intensive SEND training. Please welcome Ms. Emma Longley.
Good afternoon, delegates and distinguished guests. My name is Emma Longley, and I am the programme leader for the SENCO programme, which is a Special Educational Needs Coordinator programme at the University of Greenwich in London. I'm here today to explain to you a little bit of an overview about how SEN works in the UK, and also to explain how we train our leaders in schools to be able to provide a really good high quality education for children with SEN. So SEN in the UK is underpinned by a number of pieces of legislation. These are produced by the government and by experts in the field to ensure that there is consistency across all of the different areas of SEN that we support children with. So from early years all the way through to supporting students in higher education. And the SEN Code of Practice, which is the statutory guidance that we all adhere to, is in place for children from 0 when they're born, all the way through to young people who are 25. So the support is there in order to ensure that they get the support they need whenever their needs are identified. Early intervention is really important to ensure that children get the support in their schools. And we have guidance on the Equality Act, which talks about protected characteristics. So children who are our most vulnerable children who have special educational needs will get the support. And there are very specific guidelines for everybody who works in education and also in the health environment to ensure that our guidance is consistent across the country. In the UK, we educate the majority of our children with SEN in mainstream schools. Some children who have the most level of need will be assessed for an education and healthcare plan. And some of those children will be educated in a special or alternative provision. So that is for the children with the most severe and complex needs. There is a growing move in the UK to have additional support in school. So in mainstream schools, there is sometimes an attached unit, a special provision, where children can integrate more effectively with mainstream. So, for example, they may, in the school where I was a head teacher, we had an opportunity for children who had speech and language needs to be able to be educated by specialists. But then when we had activities such as physical education, the children would be able to come over into the mainstream school and work with our mainstream children. The other thing that we are governed by is Ofsted in the UK, and Ofsted inspect all schools and provisions. There are very clear guidance for what schools should be doing to ensure that the children get the right provision. There's also very clear guidance on safeguarding to ensure that children are kept safe, and the opportunities for that to be inspected is very high profile, and it's one of the key factors in an inspection in a UK school as to whether children are being kept safe, and that applies to children who are vulnerable with SEN as well. So the guidance there on the screen to the specific legislation. Some of these documents are quite lengthy, so there is a summary at the beginning if you are interested in learning more about them. There are 4 key areas of SEN that we use in the UK. So they are there on the screen. So cognition and learning, social, emotional, mental health, communication and interaction, and sensory and physical needs. Children are assessed by education professionals and by health professionals to identify the area of need. So, for example, children might be identified as being having autism, or they may have dyslexia or speech and language needs. And those are categorised into one of these areas. There is a lot of co-concurrence between the areas, and that means that a child who's been diagnosed with a specific area of need may well fall into different categories and need different kinds of support. And we talk about inclusion in the UK as being a neurodiversity. So children's brains, children's ways of learning may vary, and what we want to be able to do is to support them in our mainstream and our special provisions to ensure that they get the support that they need. You'll notice there that behaviour isn't identified as a special need, but actually the way that we view it in the UK is that behaviour is a form of communication, and we develop really secure relationships with our children through the adult interactions, but also through the environment that they work in to ensure they get the support and the understanding of the need that they may have. We prioritise high quality inclusive teaching. And these ideas are kind of developing and changing all the time. So key things for us to consider are the role of the teacher, and there is guidance for teachers in schools about how they would support children's learning, and how they would adapt their teaching to ensure that it meets the needs of the children that they're working with. This involves things like thinking about the language we use and the way in which we communicate, and that is supported by our special educational need coordinator, who is a leader within the school. But the responsibility for the progress of the children lies with the class teacher, with support of other people who would interact at appropriate times. We work very hard to ensure that there is a very clear understanding of what the children need, and that involves working really closely with families to ensure that they have a really clear idea of how they can work with us in partnership to develop the child's capacity for learning and access to the curriculum. It's very important that we plan inclusive lessons, and we think about the pedagogy that underpins our work, and thinking about the barriers and the challenges that might be in place for our children, and how we can work with additional adults like teaching assistants in classrooms, and actually enabling people to have access to remote education as well. The environment in the classroom is very important, and we think about the resources and the implications for our children in the classrooms, including children who might have sensory needs. One of the big challenges for children with SEN can sometimes be the times when things are unstructured, like break times, play times, and also transitions between lessons. So in the UK, our SENCO training covers everything from early years through to primary, secondary, and into further education. So we consider all the different needs of children at different points in their learning. The UK also provides subject-specific guidance, particularly for children who are young people that are learning in secondary school education, and that gives us a really clear idea about how we can adapt our teaching to meet the needs, for example, in a maths lesson or a science lesson or an English lesson. The approach that we use in the UK to support children with SEN is called our graduated approach. And it identifies the child as being at the centre of the process. So we assess the child's needs and then we plan for those needs. We implement that in the classroom and then that is regularly reviewed. If a child has the highest level of need, an EHCP, they have an annual review, but most schools would offer the opportunity for parents to work with them up to 6 times a year. The norm is about once a term. So every term the child would meet with the parent and with the external agencies and with the school support to ensure that they are everyone is understanding the needs that the child has. We put in place very specific ideas to scaffold learning. So we think about the level of need in terms of those broad areas I've just explained to you. And we ensure that children get the support that they need. One of the other really important things is about teacher wellbeing and workload. We understand the challenges that are presented to us, and it's a continuing journey for us in terms of identifying how we can improve support and provision. At the University of Greenwich, I run the SENCO programme and I work with a national group of people who also lead programmes within the UK. I work in a higher education institute, so in a university, so the support that we provide for SENCOs as experienced teachers is a really important part of the work that we're doing to progress provision for education in the UK. So there is a link here to the award that SENCOs work towards. The importance of this is that SENCOs who are new in post have to complete this qualification within 3 years of taking on a post as a special educational needs coordinator. The course is also open to people who aspire to be SENCOs, and the learning outcomes go in, there's professional knowledge and understanding, leading and coordinating provision, and also personal and professional conduct. So it's about developing an inclusive environment in the school. The way that the Greenwich course works is that we teach SENCOs over 10 days over a course of 1 academic year, and we train SENCOs who are early years, primary, secondary, and FE, further education environments. They have an academic assignment they have to complete, so they have to complete research, they have to read, they have to look at current research in the field, and the opportunity that the Greenwich course gives them is that they have opportunities to go and learn with other SENCOs in schools. So we have expert presenters who come and speak from special education, from alternative provision, from early years and primary and secondary settings. And they have the opportunity then to the students go into the schools and they can see other provision as well, which is a really important part of the work that we do in order to build the community and to build that understanding, the shared understanding of what inclusion can look like. A good example of success that we had last year from one of our SENCO teachers. He is an assistant head in a selective grammar school, and he has come back to talk to us this year about the success that he's had, which is fantastic to hear. And he reports that as a result of the course and a result of the training that he's had, the pupils in his school are more confident and motivated to learn. They can self-regulate their behaviours and they have good learning aptitudes. Children know their targets and they know how to make progress. He also reports that parents know how to support the school and how the school can support them. And sharing information and communication is an essential part of that process. Parents feel valued and welcomed and can support the school's decisions. And this is a really important move that happened when we introduced the Code of Practice for SEN in the UK in 2014, that there was going to be greater partnership with parents who know their children and support them when they are not in the school. He also reported that teachers understand how to deliver quality first teaching and the graduated approach, and they can build relationships with children with SEN and have an empathy and understanding. And they also take time to familiarise themselves with policy. As I said before, legislation is quite significant. There's a lot of it. And so the SENCO's role is to coordinate that provision, but not to implement it. So the class teachers will be responsible for the doing, and the leader in the school is responsible for coordinating that support. Teachers must have high expectations, and he also reported as a result of doing his course that teachers are working much more closely with learning support assistants now as well. And they develop good relationships with the children and the young people in their schools. And so relationships, communication and behaviour all improves as a result. One of the key factors as well was that he reported that governors in schools and head teachers also understood the importance of SEN. And one of the things that we're really pushing for is that SENCOs are senior leaders in schools and they have an oversight of the provision for the whole school. If you'd like to know more, the guidance on the learning outcomes is there on the screen. And also we have the opportunity for you to have a look at what the course involves. I'm also very happy for people to contact me if it would be of any interest to kind of support your understanding of more about our system. If you would like to know more, we have an organisation in the UK called Nisai. They produce fantastic guidance for schools and for parents, and the support there involves things like condition-specific videos to understand how we approach SEN in the UK, but also guidance for teachers and leaders in schools as well. There is a significant move at the moment by the government to change the way that we train SENCOs, and we have a consultation document out at the moment. And the guidance there is that we would move towards a different model of training. So it's in consultation at the moment. And again, I've put a link there on my slides for you to have a look at that. There's also a big move to move away from what we used to call differentiation into adaptive teaching. So this is quite a significant change, and universities are just kind of using the research that informs that approach with early career teachers and with trainee teachers. So in my other role, I train student teachers with 25 years of experience, and has been a head teacher and working in a lot of schools in the London and South East England area. I support that training of inclusion for our newest teachers, and that's a really important part of our process to ensure that teachers coming into the profession have a really good understanding of what SEN looks like and how to develop an inclusive environment. So if you're interested, the guidance there. The core content framework is for initial training, so when they're in the university system, and then there's guidance for teachers in their first 2 years of teaching to ensure that they have the support that they need. Thank you for listening today, and thank you for the opportunity to speak to my distinguished guests and delegates around the world. It's a great opportunity for us to work together, and I very much look forward to being involved in the rest of the conference this morning. Thank you very much.
Presentations, Miss Emma. I'd now like to invite the representative from the Center of Creative Initiatives in Health and Populations to present a model for early detections and interventions for children with developmental disorders in the community, IT applications and caregivers training. Please welcome. Distinguished guests, on behalf of CCIHB, I'd like to present briefly on our program. At the moment, we conduct this program from a health perspective. I myself am a doctor, So I'm doing a community health programs for students with developmental disorders. So I'll just present very briefly due to time constraint. Maybe many of you here are working in education sector, so you all know the benefits of early detections. It can greatly help in a great development period. And at the moment, the early screening and detections is not included in formal program. Uh, it is known that at the kindergarten level, the programs for health screening are often organized to detect early the students with signs of developmental disorders. One more thing, we observe that the awareness on these issues remain limited. So when we conduct training for community level healthcare workers, we realize that not many of them have enough knowledge on these issues of developmental disorders. So this remains a challenge for us. For that reason, we have developed an app and a website called A365, a platform where we provide video and instructions, so teachers and parents can acquire knowledge on how to deliver care to their children. So we also work with experts from international universities, as well as those domestically and the National Children's Hospital, to build this platform since 2015. And we also receive the support from Canadian organizations. And also later on, we also receive the support from USAID within the project I Thrive and Inclusion One from 2021 to 2025. Because we all know that it takes great effort to build a website and an app, but in order to maintain it, we need much greater resources. At the moment, on A365, on the website and on the app, you can download on Android or the applications, other app store of iPhones. You can see we are using a number of tools for developmental screening and monitoring. For example, MCHART to screen autism and problems related to behaviors and attitudes, or CSHQ for problems of sleep and other related health issues. So when you use these kind of tools, you can receive recommendations on whether your child are having the signs of these disorders, so we can come up with proper assessment. So for this app, we target parents with children with developmental disorders and healthcare workers. And after receiving the results, you can use also the videos for instructions on how to deliver care for your children. There are 6 contents divided by topics, lasting from 3 to 5 minutes. And at the moment, in this very ballroom, you can see Miss Thuy, who also joined the process of developing these kind of videos. So based on these kind of instructions, you can learn to deliver proper care to your children. So after a few years of implementations, we have gained some results as follows. Where on the app is used in every province of Vietnam, and with more than 200 instructional videos and more than 200,000 screening tests administered. And we also worked with the DOET to provide screening for 35,000 students, and nearly 8,000 parents are using the instructions given on the websites and the app. And also 8365 is listed in the guideline on early identifications for children with ASD by MOH. And at the same time, we also provide capacity building for caregivers. Here we have Madam Kim Hoa, Dr. Kim Hoa, who also joined the process. We considered different factors in how to provide the documents, proper documents for parents, so they can give better care for their child. So we are a research and implementation unit, and in the process we also work with other healthcare institutions and hospitals. This is the structure of the program. There are 9 modules, and parents can learn from one by one. When we have piloted this structure, we have piloted 46 courses for more than 500 families in Thừa Thiên Huế. And concurrently, we also we also provide online courses with 9 weeks videos for 9 weeks and 3 modules. And this is the very first program that we have commercialized. And this is also the requirement that we receive from the parents of sent students. So at the moment, we can see that the demands for these kind of courses and programs are increasingly high globally. So to satisfy such needs, we have provided 27 courses for parents in the country and in other countries as well. For on the e-learning platform, we work with autism aspect of Australia to provide courses on the students with developmental disorders. So based on that, I would like to present some recommendations as follows on early detections of children with developmental disorders. So through screening and experience, there are some issues as follows. First of all, we can see that e-learning is really possible in the current context. We can integrate that into the formal educations and instruct the teachers to implement, to conduct very easily. And also there needs to be a cooperation between the healthcare sectors and educational sectors. We work with specialists in physiotherapies and other kinds of rehabilitations for services for students. So in the coming time, we will work with other clubs and parents group, schools and hospitals to organize a sports event in Hue for students with SEND. Of course, we cannot provide this kind of support for all students with SEND, but we have made the best efforts to assist them. So and then this very in this conference, I'm very glad to see that the students receiving help and support here are those at a very early stage. So through this event, we also look forward to support from other organizations and private institutions, so we can provide a better health and better care for students with SEND. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you, Madam Vũ Thị Song Hà, for your presentations. Now I'd like to invite Dr. Nguyễn Thị Kim Hoa, Associate Professor of Vietnam Institute of Educational Science, to present a topic, enhancing the efficiency of continuing education for people with disabilities. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of our institute, I'd like to thank the Department for Continuing Education and the organizing committee for giving the chance to present. To be honest, I was under great pressure when I received the invitations to present in this very important event. So just within 10 minutes. So in my within our group, we have reviewed a number of studies, so we can come up with some recommendations. Here I will present the topic, improving the efficiency of continuing education for people with disabilities. So as some points have been mentioned earlier, I would like to use this in my speech as well. So the content includes, first of all, the reality of continuing education in Vietnam. The second, needs of participating in continuing education. And the last but not least, the solutions for improving efficiency. First of all, when studying the materials on continuing education, we realize that compared to exclusive educations, we have a much more developed network of continuing educations, as we have 95% of localities with community learning centers. So this is a great condition for people with disabilities to access the service in their area. So if we can provide, it would be great if we can integrate exclusive educations with continuing educations. The second thing, the facilities of continuing education institutions are of good conditions, and we have a great resources of managers, teachers, and they can they can meet the demands to a great extent. And what is more special is that the programs provided are really diverse, from the language, computer, and life skills training. So this is also a favorable conditions for us to enhance the chances of assessing just educations for SEND students. Great. You can see lots of great chances, conditions for us to develop this area. However, on the reports that we study, the formal reports on continuing education, we didn't find any information on educating on providing support for people with disabilities in continuing education, and this remains a gap that needs to be filled in the coming time in order to satisfy the demands of people with disabilities. So on that basis, I will move on with the second part, so we can have a better image, a better perspective of demands of people with disabilities in terms of learning. So for 6.2 million of people with disabilities, we can see that the proportion of people with disabilities in the rural areas is higher than those in the urban areas. And more than 7% of the population at the age of 2 or more are people with disability. So moving on, when talking about the participations of people with disabilities in formal education, you can see that the higher the education level is, the lower the rate of students with SEND going to school. So you can see on the table that more than 80% of students with SEND can go to school, can go to primary school. But when it comes to high school, the proportion decreased significantly to about 25%. So where have they gone? They're not attending schools. So where are they now at the moment? That is the question for us. Until 2030, our goal is to provide just certifications to send students and fill in the gaps. I myself, when conducting research on this topic, I can see that this is a question that we can answer if we work together and if we cooperate. And based on the research of VNIES, newest updates from 3 provinces of Đồng Tháp, Sơn La, and Vĩnh Phúc, we can see that, first of all, in those 3 provinces, there is no people with disability attending college or universities, and students with mobility disability impairments are the main subjects attending colleges. So we can see that the students with mobility impairments have greater chance to attend college compared to others with other kinds of disabilities. Another study we conducted on 52 provinces and departments of education and training. We have some figures as follow. More than 35% of the total survey students have not yet attended school, and in which the number of children with disabilities who have not reached school age is 97% due to some objective and subjective conditions. So where are they now? That is the questions. We also conducted a survey with 42 adults with hearing loss in Nam Định province in 2020, and we came up with the results which follow that all of them did not pursue education higher than grade 9. They have to travel a significantly great distance to attend school, because at that time they have become adults, and they dropped out of school and work to support their families as well. So there are no deaf people finishing secondary and high school. The result we achieve. Same thing for vocational training for people with disability. So here we have to see whether the education provided can satisfy the demands of people with disabilities. Our research results show that only 7 people receive vocational training, of around 7% receive, while these figures for people without disabilities is 20%. So this is because a lot of factors, for example, communication issues. And on that basis, we'd like to propose some recommendations as follow. First of all, we need to complete and improve policies on continuing educations for people with disabilities. So I think that the model just presented earlier by Ms. Lee is a great model for us, because we need a center with the function of a community and support and integrative support for students. And at the moment, we have 4 centers like those in Ho Chi Minh cities and 4 other localities. These kind of centers are not available. And so I think that the model being applied at Thanh Xuan district is a potential one for us to apply. However, there remains a reality that the teachers at vocational training institution do not have enough knowledge to provide support for students with disabilities. So on that basis, it's very essential to raise the awareness and capacity of the teachers. And at the same time, we need to develop programs in line with the needs of students and in line with the needs of people with disabilities. And it'd be great if we can do so, because those kind of programs, instead of academic one, will greatly support the students. And last but not least, we need to mobilize more social resources in the implementations of these programs. And I would like to conclude with a video that on the activities on how we teach sign language to people with hearing loss and their families. But due to time constraint, so I would like to, I will, if permitted by the organizing committee, I will show the video during the tea break. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Nguyễn Thị Kim Hoa, distinguished guests. Before we are coming to the last session of our event, I would like to invite all of you to move out the ballroom and enjoy the tea break in 15 minutes. And after that, we'll come back at 4 p.m. for the next and final session.
Kính thưa quý vị đại biểu, quý vị khách quý, tiếp theo xin trân trọng kính mời đại diện Phòng Giáo dục Đào tạo thành phố Hà Tĩnh, Sở Giáo dục Hà Tĩnh, bà Trần Thị Thủy Nga lên trình bày tham luận thực trạng giáo dục đặc biệt trên địa bàn thành phố Hà Tĩnh, dự án xây dựng trung tâm, trường học cho học sinh đặc biệt trong tương lai. Xin trân trọng kính mời bà.
Kính thưa quý vị đại biểu, kính thưa các thầy cô giáo, sau đây tôi xin đại diện cho một đơn vị của tỉnh Hà Tĩnh xin được báo cáo tham luận. Tôi xin trao đổi về thực trạng về giáo dục đặc biệt trên địa bàn thành phố Hà Tĩnh và định hướng xây dựng cơ sở giáo dục cho học sinh đặc biệt trong tương lai tại Hà Tĩnh. Trước tiên, tôi xin khái quát về thành phố Hà Tĩnh. Thành phố Hà Tĩnh là đô thị loại 2 trực thuộc tỉnh và là trung tâm chính trị, hành chính, kinh tế, văn hóa, khoa học, kỹ thuật, giáo dục đào tạo, dịch vụ, là đầu mối giao thông của tỉnh và liên tỉnh. Về giáo dục đào tạo thành phố Hà Tĩnh thì những năm qua, ngành giáo dục thành phố được sự quan tâm chỉ đạo của các cấp, các ngành. Giáo dục thành phố Hà Tĩnh đã chủ động khắc phục những khó khăn, tích cực đổi mới sáng tạo trong quản lý giảng dạy và học tập và đã trở thành đơn vị dẫn đầu toàn tỉnh về giáo dục toàn diện. Đó là đa dạng hóa loại hình trường lớp, hệ thống giáo dục ngoài công lập phát triển. Hệ thống cơ sở vật chất được đầu tư đồng bộ, chuẩn hóa và hiện đại hóa. Giáo dục đạo đức, kỹ năng sống, ngoại ngữ, tin học, giáo dục thể chất, nghệ thuật thì được thực hiện có hiệu quả. Về chất lượng giáo dục toàn diện, chất lượng học sinh giỏi dẫn đầu toàn tỉnh. Và nhiều mô hình mới được triển khai, trường lớp chất lượng cao, trường học.
Smart school, smart classes, and many experimental works, and improve indexes of schools, happy schools, smart school. In terms of the size, for kindergartens, we have 26 kindergartens, 26 preschools with more than 8,000 students, with 2 of special students of special education needs. And for primary school, we have more than 10,000 students and 69 children in inclusive environment. And at the secondary level, we have nearly 7,000 students. Regarding the special education in Hanoi City, we have 160 children between the age of 1 to 16. And some children being able to access education account for 68%. The children receiving inclusive learning at education institutions is 108. 2 in preschools, 69 primary schools, and 37 in secondary school. Regarding the education methods, at the moment we have organized integrative educations within the school and take intervention at the inclusive education development support center out of the school and out of the city and province. Concerning the content of the program, we have implemented the personalized education plan to serve people with disabilities, to serve children with severe disabilities, and also adjust and mitigate the requirements of the current educational curriculum. Talking about the guarantee conditions, at the moment we have in each school we have equipped one support station for SEND students to be used as integrated with the health office for school. And the whole city has not had teachers specialized in special education, and the current sources of teachers haven't received regular training in special education methods. And after some documents being issued, we have our own regime mechanism at the moment. After a while, we have achieved some results as follows. First of all, there remain the limit in education access for SEND students and other challenges and difficulties as well. For children with SEND, they are not detected at early stage, and we might have missed the golden period for interventions, and it is very difficult for us to treat in a later period. And at the same time, the families have not acquired proper knowledge and accepted their children's conditions, and the school don't have the proper basis to implement the special education program. The SEND children have yet enjoyed the favorable conditions, and teachers don't have the right skills to organize training for SEND students. regarding the public resources and operation organizations. The current inclusive education is only appropriate for children with mild disabilities. For those with severe disability, there needs to be special education institutions. And we haven't been able to develop a syllabus and programs for specialized for SEN children. For that reason, we need the participation of social organizations and communities. And on that basis, I'd like to recommend some solutions as follows. For SEN children, we need to promote media and communications and investigate, conduct survey for early detections and prompt interventions. In terms of guarantee conditions, we need to boost the special education institutions in Ha Tinh City, train teachers, upskill teachers, and core facilitators, and implement policies to support teachers and learners. And third, last but not least, for special education organizations, we need to classify degrees and type of disabilities and call for participation of social organizations. And other suggestions are as follows. So the special education institution model that Ha Tinh City strives to achieve is the one that has a system of appropriate classroom function rooms, advanced and modern supporting equipment, comfortable atmospheres, amusement, sports and fitness stations, and a career orientation center that are in line with the demands of SEN students. And we also try to build a team of teachers with great compassion who can deliver proper care to SEN students. So on that basis, I'd like to recommend some issues as follows. For MOET, to continue directing and supporting the development of a model of specialized schools in Ha Tinh province, and request support for Ha Tinh City in national and international programs on special education for SEN students. And also we need more investment in facilities and equipment to meet the requirements of SEN students, establish guidelines for arrangement of school medical professionals to support students with SEN at schools. So at the moment, we don't have healthcare professionals at the schools. And for Nisai Group, we look forward to receiving support and advice on solutions and capacity building for teachers, developing materials and tools for special educations. And we also hope to conduct more exchanges and discussions with our colleagues in the UK. So, ladies and gentlemen, I today in this on this very important event, I truly hope that today's beginnings will open up a new phase in the special education cooperation between Vietnam and the UK in general, and with Nisai Group in particular. And I would like to wish all of you great health and success. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Trần Thị Thủy Nga, for your presentations. Now we'll come to the presentations of Nisai Group representative on the practical experience from Nisai Group, a British education organization on training teachers for special students and teaching special students, and how Nisai Group is supporting schools and parents.
Good afternoon to all delegates and distinguished guests. My name is David Lester. I'm Group Learning Services Director for Nisai, and as it's just been explained, we're going to look at the practical experience that's been gained since our inception in 1996 and how that's supporting now teachers who support learners with SEN, and also our experiences of teaching learners with SEN. A couple of thank yous first to the British Embassy for sponsoring the event today, to the Department of Continuing Education for introducing Nisai to DOIT, Hartin, and also to the Department of Education and Training in Hartin as well. So what we'll be looking at is the context and background of Nisai Group, our learners, what makes an inclusive environment, and we've heard a lot of examples today about the plans for the future, a case study. We'll cover off the teacher training in Hartin, and also introduce you to one of our students as well, Frankie. So if we start with the context and why Nisai, the perception of our organisation is one of being a global school, being a Cambridge International approved online school, a deliverer and teacher of UK curriculum, but also where we're chosen by schools and parents to support learners across the world. The reality is somewhat different. Yes, it does include that, but since 1996, Nisai have been delivering complementary online education to children of school age, both in the UK and internationally, and our founder and CEO, Dhruv Patel, identified the need for an alternative and complementary approach to teaching learners who firstly weren't attending education, but also those with special education needs. In the UK, we are approved by the Department for Education as a Section 41 provider supporting learners with SEN post-16. We have a focus on inclusivity and pathways. So not just looking at the time that students are with Nisai, but where they're heading to, and ultimately improving impact and life outcomes. Very much about promoting community learning, so educating students not just in urban areas but also rural communities, and that is reinforced through our partnership with UNESCO IITE, where we look to promote and support the Sustainable Development Goals. We look to upskill adults to close the skills gap resulting from the pandemic. That's not just in the education sector, it's in other areas as well, but also improving English literacy globally. And this is done through our three core organisations, Nisai Learning, Global School, and with the teacher training element, the Professional Development Institute. So looking at the numbers, we have a presence in 10 countries. We support students in over 30 countries. We've supported learners totaling just over 25,000 over the years. Our strength in SEN comes from our presence in the UK, where 80% of Nisai learners come to us with some form of learning difference or special education need. And we're seeing the pattern now following with our learners in Vietnam, where 15% of those are displaying behaviours and signs, and some have diagnosis of SEN, primarily autism and attention deficit. But over the years, we have delivered over 1.8 million hours of teaching to learners around the world. Our capability is very much focused, as I say, to supporting learners in all areas. Many of those fall into the categories of 4Ds, so those that are disadvantaged, disabled, those disabilities, whether they be visible or invisible, those that have disengaged from education, and those that have been displaced. There's a huge agenda in the UK at the moment due to the fallout potentially from the pandemic, where absence and non-attendance is causing a number of problems with a direct correlation between attainment and attendance. It's important that we put together and work with schools and teachers to identify strategies to re-engage learners and give them access in education. We're supporting transition phases. So those moving from primary to secondary and secondary onto higher education. And where we've been particularly successful is making funding go further for government teams. Being able to reach more learners in multiple locations, but bringing them all together into one virtual classroom. So we've heard a lot about SEN. Our students cover a multitude of areas. You'll notice here some are SEN, some are struggling with sort of mental health, social anxiety, but also medical illness as well. And it's been great this morning, this afternoon, to hear about the recognition of disability along with SEN. As I say, 80% of the learners in the UK come to us with many of these backgrounds, and in most cases, not just one. There's normally a number of multiple barriers to their learning. So what we want to look at is building a support network around students and an appropriate environment to allow for progress. That could come in the form of teaching. We've also talked about the use and heard about the use of technology within this as well. So it has to be very much about creating education facilities that are inclusive and effective learning environments. We have a number of models to support this. The global school, which is online delivery only, and that's a mix of short and long-term provision. And I think what we'll find, whilst this is based on an online delivery method, it is as relevant, the principles are as relevant in a practical and physical school. What this is all very much around is the personalization of learning. Some students will require, it should require short-term interventions, some may require longer. What's important is that the provision is appropriate and relevant. These programs can be academic or they may be project-based, but if project-based, they're there to develop core skills in maths, in English, and also science, ICT. Wellbeing and student support programs for dealing with strong emotions are there to support the whole child. We've heard the phrase student-centered this morning, this afternoon. Again, it's about developing skills as well as knowledge. And our courses come as either accredited or endorsed options. An approach which has proved really successful is the Nisai Learning Zone, and blended approach to learning where technology complements the work which is being done by teachers, an opportunity where learners can access a physical setting but also benefit from online. And where that can work is learners with SEN, we find, who have disengaged from education need a step up. It's small steps quite often to be able to re-engage them into that physical setting. But as part of that, we support staff on site that are trained by Nisai staff, and the project and pilot in Hartin is going to sort of reinforce that. But an approach which is both face-to-face as well as online can be particularly successful in building skills in communication, but also building self-confidence. The other benefit to having a physical setting is being able to promote socialization. And whilst much of this can be done within an online environment through the Nisai Virtual Academy, we also know that to provide the best opportunity for progressing on and moving onto further pathways, that interaction with others is key. So when we look at the wider support network to the child, what we provide is teaching staff and form tutors. They, as well as teaching, are there to identify behaviours relating to SEN. And we've heard that in many cases, early diagnosis is going to be key, but can quite often be missed. Our team in Vietnam that support our customer and student support team ensures that parents are involved with their child's learning, that schools are also involved in that. Student welfare team are there to provide that additional support outside of lessons. And we've heard the phrase EHCP in education, health and care plans. Again, this is a team of specialists we have based in the UK to support in goal setting and ensuring that students get the level of support that they need. Following on from that, we have mentors, and our personalised learning support program is there to support learners in the home, but also supporting that transition into a physical setting. I'm conscious of the time, so what I am actually going to do is just skip that and just talk about one of our students, Alison, who joined Nisai, came to us with autism, social anxiety, would only speak to immediate members of her family. We introduced both online learning and the support of a mentor. And from an individual whose life opportunities were quite limited because she wouldn't leave her home and she wouldn't communicate with others, she actually went on to achieve GCSEs. She went to college, studied video production, and then moved on to university after winning an award for creating a short film. The project for teacher training that we're looking at in Hartin is going to be about supporting teachers to develop skills to support learners in SEN, to learn the principles of personalising learning to the needs of a child. We'll also be looking to recognise the importance of structure that we talked about earlier and considering activities and tasks pre, peri and post lesson. Understanding the need and importance of goal setting, strategies to engage and develop learners with SEN, but also building relationships with SEN schools and other countries who have worked with Nisai, including those in UK, Indonesia and Brunei. To finish with, I'd like to introduce you to Frankie. Frankie is one of our Nisai Global School students. He's currently in year 2 of IGCSEs. Been a student with Nisai since August 2020 and he's been homeschooled. He's got a passion for modelling. He's got his own YouTube channel. So I would be very happy to hand over to Frankie and thank you all for your time today.
My name is Kiên Đức. I live in Ho Chi Minh City. At the moment, I am learning at Nisai. So before by Nisai, I learned at the BBIF for a long time. But because of my health situations, so I did have to quit. So I was absent at school for quite a long period of time, and then I was homeschooled for a short period of time, and then I met Nisai. So when after Nisai, I found the program rather interesting, and I agree to learn together with Nisai. So after half a year, I found that Nisai environment is suitable with me. Online environment for me, no need to go to school. I may attend school online. It was a little bit challenging for me to travel from home to school. So I had a lot of support for the learning. So the child care support, I received a lot of the support from the child care team of the Nisai. And I had the extracurricular activities by the weekend. Well, thank you very much for listening to channel. Well, thank you very much. That's all. No. Now another presentation. Well, Mr. Tristan Williams, best practice in inclusion, developing practice across a community of night school.
Hello, and Greetings from England this morning. I hope you're enjoying the sessions so far. Just want to double check that you can see my presentation. Wonderful, that's great. Okay, so to go through the key parts of my discussion, I am a big believer that the education system is at a watershed moment, and it's very, very important that we have transformational leadership. And one of the key areas I want to be able to talk about today is about compassionate leadership. I am fully aware that the world and our children are going through very challenging times at the moment. And as we know from the World Health Organization, they are looking at our children having more and more support. Now, in addition to the impact of the pandemic, young children are finding it very, very difficult and have been disproportionately affected by disruptions to their education. Therefore, one key area of our work within education is to focus not just on the academic aspect of learning, but also to focus on our mental well-being of all our children. So the first question that we ask ourselves in our trust at the moment, what is our why for our 4,000 students and 800 staff? Well, that is our shared mission to challenge educational and social inequality through the power of education. The second question we ask ourselves is actually, how do we deliver our why? Well, we deliver our why through our shared vision of all children from all backgrounds, all succeeding. The third question we ask ourselves is, how do we behave? Well, we work hard because we feel that working hard is a good value to have, because by working hard, hopefully you can become successful. Our second shared value is kindness. We expect all our staff members and all our children to do their best and to treat each other and treat others the way that they want to be treated. And we want to develop all our learners, all our students to have courage, that our students can and should be embracing the opportunities, the challenges present them. The fourth question we ask ourselves is, what does success look like for children in our trust? And what we did, we spoke to many children across our trust, we spoke to their families, and we spoke to staff members. And we agreed that happiness is something really, really important. The happy children from all backgrounds acquire the knowledge to achieve their aspirations and to make positive contributions to their community. We are aware that happiness is contagious, that if you've got a smile, you have a positive attitude, that actually those in direct contact with you have an emotional uplift of 16%, and that's just the start. But also conscious that success never goes in straight lines. And actually, sometimes when things go against you, it's the ability to be resilient and to carry on in that journey that ultimately leads to academic success, but also success in the workplace for all our colleagues. So we believe in having a strong culture. We believe that all children should have a highly personalized approach based on attachment theory, to be aware that behavior is a form of communication, and that all staff members, support staff, our clinical staff and teaching staff and all leaders have high expectations. And we must make sure that all our schools address academic, social and the medical needs of our children. It's really, really important that all the agencies work together and work closer now than they've ever had to, whether you're an educationalist, a clinician, or you're working from social care. Because if agencies can't work together, our children will not achieve success. And no agency working in isolation can affect these changes by themselves. Furthermore, I'm a big believer that parents or carers and colleagues working in schools need to be engaged, and the link between school and home needs to be stronger than ever before. And this needs to be an ongoing key priority in our schools. So our curriculum should be relevant, it should be interesting, it should be personalised to every child and ambitious. So the balance between academic and social progress. I'm a big believer that academic development and social and emotional support are of equal importance in developing our children. The more different our pupils feel, the more they will strive to meet each other's needs, which usually happens in negative or possibly undesirable ways. So it's really vital that we maintain high expectations within an agreed framework that will aid to reduce anxiety for all children. And as Barry Carpenter said, one of the leading professors in our country, an anxious child is not a learning child. Therefore, we must not just manage anxieties or the social challenges, we must work as hard as we can to modify behaviour and our approaches to learning so improvements can be made over time for all our children academically and socially. And effective support for our most vulnerable SEND children, the development of clear and transparent systems for working, and to be able to move funding between settings, to make sure that we have consistent intervention mapping across all our schools, and that adaptations demonstrate high levels of development both socially and academically, and we consistently share best practice amongst each other so we're consistently learning and developing ourselves. And one of the key areas is that we listen and act compassionately to parent voice, so we know what it's like as a parent to be living at home with a child who needs that additional support, and together we find solutions holistically between school and home. So what are the benefits of alignment? Expectations gives you emotional security. Boundaries give you emotional safety. Routines give you emotional certainty. Language, emotional support, and consistency gives you emotional stability. And when these factors are in place between our mainstream and special school provision, the pupil placement, the induction and reintegration between settings are much more likely to be successful. And the importance of a high expectation culture. Pupils will only go as high as the expectation that we set for them as adults. And we do know that self-esteem and confidence are tightly connected to high expectations from all adults. And in order to social expectations to be modified, our pupils need to know how to reach the expectations. And we must expect that adults demonstrate these high expectations. And that to me is one key area that we can show that adults care deeply for our pupils. And the importance of boundaries. The boundaries must be clear and remain the same. Boundaries are there to help pupils understand and respect their own needs as well as the needs of others. And boundaries provide a sense of emotional security, which a pupil needs to feel in order to have the capacity to think about a situation and how to self-regulate. And I'm going to finish with two quotes. First one from PIRSA in 2023. The important and expansive role of the teacher is increasingly evident, particularly in the light of the changing educational landscape. The teacher is being acknowledged as an essential component and contributor to the function of society on a global scale. And my last quote by Mistral, just to finish today. Many things can wait, but the child cannot. Now is the time their bones are being formed and their mind is being developed. To them, we cannot say tomorrow, their name is today. And that's how we, Adventurous Trust, meet the needs of all our children, and we celebrate our shared vision of all children from all backgrounds, all succeeding. Thank you for your time today.
Now we come to the Q&A sessions. Now I would like to invite the representatives of the organizer and the other participants to come on the stage. Madam Zeng, okay, Nisai, the General Manager, Dr. Lê Thị Thu Hằng. Madam Tô Thị Trà Ly from Thanh Xuân District, Hanoi City. Madam Vũ Sông Hà, of the Center for the Population and Health Initiative. Yes. Dr. Nguyễn Thị Kim Hoa, Mr. Nguyễn Hồng Cường from the Hà Tĩnh Department of Education and Training. Well, together with the together with the online participants.
First of all, I would like to thank the delegates and distinguished guests to remain for the last session of our conference today. And actually, this is one of the very first conference on special educations. And joining us today, we have representatives and also parents of special needs of SEND students. So very special event. I would like to invite all of you to join the Q&A sessions. First of all, I would like to go through some questions that I received via online forms. So during the process, I will continue to receive inquiries from those in this room. The first question I received via online registrations for Nisai Group. What are the subjects that the conference, the subjects of our conference are SEND students, but the demands of students of different types of this children with disabilities differ. So what kinds of different model do you have for students with different forms of disabilities? Nisai Group, please.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Greetings from Brunei. My name is Drew Patel, the CEO and founder of Nisai Group. The kind of children we work with are, as David had shown in the slide, quite a wide number of different programs which we run with. But what I'd like to do is I'd like to introduce you to Laura Brown, who can answer that question much more properly. Laura, do you want to answer that question for me, please?
I know which one you want. Yeah, just recently joined. Yeah, because.
Sorry, Laura, is Laura there? Okay. Lynn, do you want to just repeat that question? I can answer. Sorry, I thought Laura was going to answer the question. Sorry, Lynn, I can't hear you.
Well, we are targeting we at send students, but the demands of students with different forms of disabilities. So what kinds of models and programs does Nisai have for students with different forms of disabilities?
Okay, so just to bring a context, when I founded this Nisai, the way I wanted to do was I didn't want to provide any special programs. I wanted to teach them differently so they could achieve the programs which everybody else has. So to put the inclusivity on the agenda, we have actually, our teachers are trained in a special way to ensure that the students can achieve your IGCSEs, A levels, if they're able to do it. So we make sure that they achieve what they're able to achieve, rather than saying that they can't achieve. I think that it doesn't matter who you are, what you are. It's about making sure the children get the best possible start in their lives. Tris, what do you think? You're on mute, Tris.
Yeah, absolutely. And to me, these days, the balance of achieving academic excellence and supporting social and emotional development is of equal importance. And we've also been fortunate enough, Dhruv, as you know, to work alongside yourself and your colleagues. And if I come back to that key point of having personalised learning isn't just happening within the classroom these days. Personalised learning is happening on many platforms. We're finding more and more of our children who need social and emotional support need a different perspective. Therefore, hybrid learning, where some of our most anxious children find it very difficult coming to school every day, but to be able to apply the best practice of hybrid learning, where we use Teams and Zoom, as I'm using, the platform today, is really, really important. So we have to think differently. We have to think creatively, because children are only in our schools a very, very short period of time. And, we as adults, we as professionals have to make sure that we do everything within our capability, but also think differently post-pandemic to achieve the outcomes that we're trying to get for all our children.
Okay. Does that answer your question, Lynn?
Yeah, yes. Thank you.
The next questions for representative from Vietnam Institute of Educational Science. So how do educational institutes measure progress made by students in Vietnam? Thank you for your questions. So first of all, according to the law on people with disabilities, the people with disabilities will learn in 3 environments. First of all, integrative kindergartens and schools, in which students with and without disabilities will study in the same environment. So this is the main policy being applied at the moment. Other forms can be applied, for example, exclusive education for students, in which students with disabilities will study in the same environment with other students with disabilities. Or in a hybrid form, there will be a specialized classroom for sent students in a formal school in the system. So there have been guiding documents on how to assess sent students during their learning process. So the principle is to base on progress and based on their personal learning program. In general, the 3 forms all use the measurement, the key measurement, and it must be understood that we don't base on kindergarten curriculum only, but for each type of students with disabilities, we have an assessment measure based on their personal learning plan. And besides that, for places with favorable conditions, the schools can work with experts and use other tools of assessment. However, this is not the popular one at the moment because because not many localities have the favorable conditions for that. Thank you, Ms. Hoa. The third question is for MOET, for DOET of Hà Tĩnh. So regarding the cooperations with the UK, what kind of specific policies does Hà Tĩnh province have for people with disabilities and students and SAN students? So for Hà Tĩnh province, we have implemented some works as follows. First of all, at the beginning of the school year, we review and we screen the students and detect the SEND students and classify them so we can assign them to special class. And second thing, we also consult policy agencies, so other agencies on the policy, so we can assign suitable teachers. And thirdly, we upskill, we organize capacity building for teachers, and also work with other organizations to upskill teachers so they can get used to this very new method of teachings for students with SEND. And besides that, on the basis of the current programs, we make adjustment so they suit different groups of SEND students. And at the moment, we are planning to arrange a specialized classroom in each school. So it is also an issue mentioned earlier by the previous speakers. So one of the fundamental solutions, I believe, is to have a classroom like that. So what we need to do now is to implement. So at the moment, we are the Hà Tĩnh province leaders are now taking initiatives in implementing such policy. So in the process of working with Nisai, we really hope that Nisai and the British Embassy can give us a support so we can build a standard school as presented by the UK speakers. So these are some plans to be implemented in the coming time. Thank you. Thank you very much for Mr. Kuang from Hà Tĩnh DOET. Shows the dedications of the province on this very special type of educations. The next questions relate to autism. So maybe I'll invite Ms. Ha to answer. So what are the suggestions for autism, for personalized and exclusive education for students and children with autism? Thank you very much for your question concerning curriculum for students with autism. So from my perspective, I believe that besides the hours that we deliver education, we need more activities that can help the students to integrate in the communities and enhance their social skills and manage their behaviors. So with the role of a person in the healthcare sector, I believe that there should be the participations of healthcare specialists and also educational specialists. For example, the speech therapists and occupational therapists can come to school and work with the teachers and develop the personalized curriculum for students. Maybe where those experts can teach the teachers and train the teachers on the basic skills on organizing activities or adjusting the environment for sensory impairment students. There should also be the cooperations in monitoring the health status of children, so we can detect those with autism from an early stage. We all know that children with autism struggle a lot in their life. They have anxiety disorder and other emotional problems and other health issue. So we need to pay great attention to those kind of problems, and there should be the participation of their families as well. So we can all together build and develop personalized training, educational programs, and agree on the goals to be achieved, the expectations, and based on that, the families can continue to adopt those practices and the results within their families. So these are some recommendations that I believe that should be done. So I really like the presentations by Nisai, their program on building the confidence for SEND students. So I think that these are the basic things that we should do to support students later on in their life. So I'm very also happy to see that Hanoi province is receiving a lot of support from Nisai and piloting programs. So we hope that in other projects in the future, we can learn from you and provide better support for students. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Ha, for your recommendations. You mentioned that in order to have a personalized program for SEND students, there needs to be participations by schools, educational institutions, families, and healthcare workers. So with those factors, we can provide best support for students. Another questions for the speakers here, for Ms. Lee from Continuing Education Center of Thanh District. So how do you implement integrative educations, and how effectively is it? Distinguished guests, for this question, first of all, at continuing education centers, we provide support for students at mainly at secondary schools and high school level. So at that time, we believe that as a student got used to some basic skills and acquired some certain knowledge, it was much easier for them to integrate and to adapt to the environment. I'm not sure about other institutions, but every year we receive a lot of students to integrative classes. So in general, they face certain types of challenges during their study, but the teachers try their best to support, even when they don't have the expertise in SEND support provisions. But in terms of the efficiency, I believe that it is a long process that we need to constantly improve. Thank you, Ms. Lee. So maybe in order to achieve efficiency, like Ms. Ha mentioned, we need the cooperation of the families, schools, and healthcare sectors. Next one. Questions from from the audience in the ballroom. So please, so I'd like to invite Mr. Andy Chu to give your questions directly. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I have a questions for all the speakers here. We talked about special education and vocational training for students in Vietnam. Have you thought of the future, their future? Will they have a future with a proper job? Now we're just talking about education, but we haven't mentioned whether the SEND student can secure a future with a proper job, a decent job. Second questions, when building a model for education of SEND students, it is evident that just a model for infrastructure investment is totally different from others. And teachers need expertise in SEND support provisions and also the knowledge in terms of different types of disabilities. And there's another issues regarding the assessment of input and outputs and also process assessment. So so I think that we should make it clear that we cannot integrate students with autism in the same physical environment with other students. And I was wondering, is it suitable to put students with autism in the vocational training institutions? So those are the questions that I believe that we should make clear, so that later on we don't have to come back to questions, the questions that we ask again and again. So I think that the questions can these questions can be answered by Ms. Kim Hoa. So the first questions on the occupation opportunities for SEND students. Ms. Hoa, please. Thank you very much for your questions. Actually, this is a very hard one to answer. So within my knowledge, while applying the policies, I have some comments as follows. So first of all, so whether students with autism should be put in an exclusive environment. we should refer to the law of Vietnam issued in 2015. At that time, autism was not included as a disability, but 4 years ago, autism or ASD, and ASD has been specified as a type of disabilities. But we should be aware that besides autism, there are other groups of students with disabilities, and they require different types of support from at a mild level to a very severe level. And based on the level of disabilities, the countries shall develop suitable learning program. So it is observed that in some European countries, the students, all SEND students can participate in integrative classrooms. But in other countries like Korea and Japan, they are adopting the same practices in Vietnam, which is exclusive educations and hybrid educations. So I would say that in the current context, we will maintain different forms of educations for students. And at the moment, MOET is developing a system for educational support centers. And we are planning, we plan that by 2030, 70% of localities shall have one exclusive school or one community integrative education center. However, we, based on the real demands of the localities, we recommend that the Province People's Committee establish centers for people with disabilities and also engage the private organizations in the process. So I will say that we have a system, we're having a diverse system of centers, a diverse network of support for students with SEND. So here we don't base on the type of disability, we base on the seriousness of disabilities. Second thing, MOET at the moment has the functions of career orientation in terms of training for job opportunities. That is actually the function of MOLISA. So since people can enjoy some services for people with disabilities, and tomorrow MOLISA will organize an event to discuss career orientation for people with disabilities. According to the information I received, besides the education for SEND students and ASD students, there has been a lot of attention paid to career orientation for people with disabilities. So I hope that the questions can somehow address your questions. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Kim Hua, for your answers. The second question I'd like to summarize as follows. So for this one, I shall invite Ms. Lee from Thanh Xuan District, continuing education and also a UK speaker to give comments so we can compare the practices. So the question here, we talk a lot about disabilities, but in order to classify or to target certain types of people with disabilities, we need a lot of classifications and assessment. So what kinds of educational measures are optimal for in this context? So maybe while waiting for Ms. Lee, maybe I can invite a British speaker on the optimal measures to support SEN students from, please, Mr. Christian from Venture Trust, please. Do you have any comments?
Okay, I repeat the question. So we have a lot of the the needs. For example, the investment in specialized teachers, assessment, evaluation for SEN learners. So whether you have any kind of the solutions in order to maximize this kind of the education. Thank you. That's the question. Are you tôi xin lỗi, tôi lại không thấy cái tôi lại can you hear me? Can you hear me? So whether there are any solutions in UK in order to maximize the investment in infrastructure, specialized teachers, and evaluations for input and output for learners and teachers. Are there any solutions in UK available? Can you hear me? Hello? Hello? Hello, can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me? So the training of the specialized teachers for Mr. Patel. Can you answer this question? Can you hear me? Right?
I didn't get most of the question, but I hope you can hear me. First of all, when I started this up, I used technology and a blended approach into how we can train and teach children with barriers to learning, as I call it, barriers to learning. And the barriers is the most important word. If we understand the barriers, we can then unpick the barriers and create personalized learning for our young people. So by labeling them, we don't achieve much. But by saying they have barriers, then we try everything to do and personalize the learning. So one of the things for me, the guiding principle I always had was, as we have said, it's a total person, it's a holistic approach, it's a team around a child, but more importantly, it's making sure that they can get the best they can achieve. So for example, when we started off, a lot of our young people were not able to get their GCSEs or could not go to A level because they were considered they can't be. By using a blend of technology and working with teachers live and working within the schools, we were able to do that. So it's about how we do it. For example, when you have children with different needs, in a normal school, you might have different age groups. But with us, we have in ability levels. So it's a very different approach which we have. And unfortunately, I wanted Tristan, because Tristan runs a very inclusive school and an academy, and it would have been very useful to get his insight on this. He's just coming over. Tristan, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. And I'm more than happy, Drew, if you've got the global icon, if you want to interpret and ask me the questions, then that's absolutely fine. I'll take the question that way.
Okay, it's Lynn, can you ask the question again?
Okay, Lynn, can you hear me? Mr. Tristan? Mr. Tristan? So for example, the investment in infrastructure for school or center, training of specialized teachers or evaluation assessment. But for the group of the special needs education, autism, so whether there are any solutions in UK in order to maximize. So Mr. Tristan, have you got any solutions in order to maximize the investment into the infrastructure, into the center? Okay, that's okay. Is that clear? You clear with the question, right?
Tristan, can you hear?
Yes, I can hear you. Yes, I can hear you. Yes, I don't have the translation. Did you get the translation?
Go ahead, Tristan, I can hear you.
Yeah, I can hear you, Drew, but I just need the question translated, please.
I think the question is, Tristan, is more about investment in infrastructure and technology and about assessment of students with autism and career aspirations and for how you handle those kind of things.
Okay, so Drew, let me speak in English. So we have various groups of special education needs. So in UK, how do you support special education needs students in your inclusive school regarding the infrastructure, teacher training, and the assessment?
Yes, thank you. The assessment of children, especially those with autism in the UK, has changed in the last few years. All the assessment tools for the diagnosis of autism was based on assessment that had been put together on boys. Now we're fully aware that autism shows itself quite differently in girls. Therefore, the diagnostic tools have changed, and the percentage of boys to girls used to be 80% boys, 20% girls. But by using the latest diagnostic tools, what we're starting to see is a change in the percentage of diagnosis, more 60% boys to 40% girls. But what we're also picking up on through the diagnosis process is that more and more children with special needs are being born prematurely. And that is one of the key areas of change in our country recently, is especially children that are born pre-33 weeks, pre-28 weeks, and the amount of children that need specialist input. And the challenge we've got currently is that there's more and more of children that are undiagnosed, but actually that have been born prematurely in our school system than we've ever seen before. And the medical world, I would say, is 10, 15 years ahead of us as an education setup. And that is one key thing that we need to be adapting. And the medical world isn't going to change. Therefore, we're aware that there will be more children with special needs coming into our system. It's no one's fault. It's not down to purely levels of deprivation or the pandemic. But, the medical world is clearly keeping children alive and absolutely morally right. But as educationists, we will have more children coming into our school system with special needs than ever before. And obviously there will, that will also have an impact long term on social care. Therefore, assessment is important. we now ask the question, did the birthing process, was it straightforward? Was your child born pre-33 or pre-35 weeks? Because it is important that as educationists, we also know these things. There's also ongoing assessments within the schools, but also making sure that those assessments are dynamic, that assessments also meeting the academic, social, emotional, and clinical needs. No longer can I, as an educationist, know all the answers. I have to be able to turn to my colleagues, the clinical people who now work in our schools, shoulder to shoulder, and who actually working with educationists. They no longer work for the health service. These people are working within our schools, and collectively, like my point about multi-agency working, educationists can't do this in isolation. It has to be educationists, social workers, and clinicians working in partnership to find solutions.
Okay, thank you very much, Tristan.
For this question, in Vietnam, there are specialized schools, not many. Well, Madame Hoa said about 30 provinces where there are no specialized schools and centers. In Hanoi, there are 3 centers. One center for the blind people, and a center, and another center, or another school for the disabled children. And regarding the solutions, for example, for the specialized schools, upon the recruitment of the teachers, there are the requirement regarding the input, qualifications for the teachers, and the updated knowledge. So I think that it is necessary to provide the updated knowledge to the teachers and the trainers, so that they may be able to improve their effective training and teaching. And second, that in the regard of the information, information update, and I also think that there are also the other solution. For example, in Vietnam, in Hanoi, in the specialized schools, you may add a number of the subjects, diversified exercise. So in order to better satisfy the needs of the education for children, or we may assign to the continuing education center for the improvement of the investment into the facilities. So another solution is in terms of the database. So the teacher and the trainer who do have the skills and the knowledge working together with the disadvantaged children, specialized training staff to provide these activities. So that is, in my opinion, the solutions that we may put in place. Thank you. Thank you, presenter. Thank you, speaker. Well, thank you very much from Vietnam and from UK. So the MC, so we now closing the workshop. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the Q&A session has closed the conference. Once again, thank you, Ministry of Education and Training, UK Embassy, the DOET, Hanoi, Hà Tĩnh, together with the participants, the manager from the education facilities from UK and Vietnam, So teachers, parents, people, students, teachers. Well, thank you very much for your participation. So after 3 hours of working together, so the conference is now successfully concluded. So we listen to the current situation, issues, suggestions for improvements, a number of the presentations, values, suggestions, practical solutions. Once again, thank you very much for the participation. I wish you all good health. Thank you.